Well, hey guys, it's just us today. I am so excited when I get to come on and talk with you, kind of tell you what God's been putting on my heart and mind in the last few weeks. Usually the topic is kind of my ideas for the topic come from conversations that I've had with you, the listeners. And today's topic is about not disqualifying ourselves before it's time or before we even have the chance to really think about it. Now, people have two words that I think are so easy for us to say when we're asked to do something new, something challenging, and that's, I can't. And so easily, that is the easiest answer. I can't. Because then it's done. You don't have to think about it again. And I think if you have friends or family that are asking you this thing, then they might say, well, why not? But some people won't even ask that. So you just say, I can't. And they'll say, okay, thanks so much. But really, if we were honest with ourselves, the answer that we actually would give them was, no, it doesn't fit in the direction my life is going right now. Or I'm doing something like that is really nerve-wracking for me. I'm shy. I'm an introvert. I don't like talking in front of people. Or no, I tried that once and it really didn't turn out well. So I'm not really interested in doing it again. Instead, we just simply answer, I can't. And then we might, if we're asked to, offer an excuse. Excuses like, I don't have the right training or experience. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm too busy. I might make a mistake or screw it up. If you're really spiritual, you might say, yeah, that's not within my spiritual gifting. Why do we do this? Why is it that we, say no right away? And that's like our first response. And it's because it's easier to say no than to move out of our area of comfort. We'd rather be somewhere where we're comfortable instead of, really stepping into anything that just feels even a little bit uncomfortable. Starting something new is scary. It might require us to adjust our schedule or our family time, submit to training, inviting someone new into our lives. And all of those things are hard. So our first answer is no. And I'm going to challenge you guys today that even if that's the first word that comes to your mind, if you have a good reason, if the answer is like, no, I can't because what you're asking me to do is on Wednesday nights, and on Wednesday nights we do sports. So I can't do that. Okay, cool. What you're asking me to do is in the mornings, and I work during the week. So that's just not something that I can help with. Obviously, there are no's that are easy no's because it's just not possible. But when it's not an easy no, I want to challenge you guys to pause when you're offered something new. Don't disqualify yourself before you have taken the time to really think through whatever that new thing is in life and take a little time to pray about it. I feel like we have the need to respond right away. And maybe that's just because life goes so quickly in culture, especially American culture. Everything's so fast, and we feel like if I don't answer right now, I'm going to miss out on this opportunity. They're going to ask somebody else. And that might be true with, like a job offer or something. You may feel like if I don't say yes right now, then they're going to go on to the next person, and this isn't going to be open if I actually decide yes. And so you might need to ask if there's time, like, can I have a couple days to really think through this, to, consider if this is a good fit for me right now. And the answer might be no. But if it's yes, it's actually really reassuring to be able to take that time, because when you go to make that decision, you have more confidence. You have more confidence that you've made the right decision, and you're not stepping into it going, oh, I don't know if this is right. And the person that you are partnering with, whether it's a job or a ministry or a service opportunity, knows that you're really taking this seriously because you took the time to think about it, to pray about it. And now the fact that you said yes means that you're really, truly committed. So really taking that time is going to show the other parties in this decision that you're serious about this. And you're not just jumping into it willy-nilly and not really thinking about it. So I actually think that taking a little bit of time, taking that pause is actually really beneficial. Now, I think people disqualify themselves for several reasons. I mean, we're creative humans. I bet we could come up with 100 reasons why we just don't have time, or we just, just don't have the energy, or whatever it might be. But I'm going to narrow it down to like 4 categories, and I've probably forgotten something. So you can take some of these things that we're talking about and apply it to your excuse, whatever it might be. But I'm going to go to 4 areas, and maybe one of these will kind of touch you and your heart and your, kind of like your go-to excuse. So the first one is time. Ooh, yeah, I just don't have time for that. That is the easiest because everyone understands not having time. We all get it. We all have full schedules. So saying something like, I don't have time, is an easy out. But I want you to consider this. Which one of these are you? Are you the person that's like so protective with your time that you don't have time for anyone? Like you are, this time is my time. And if I let anyone in on this time, then I don't have any time for myself. And so this is my time, and you're really protective with it. And your schedule is set. And you're like, you know what? Sorry that we don't have any room in our schedule because it's already set and it looks the same all the time and we do not change. Okay. Or are you on the other side of the coin where you don't really have a schedule? And so it's easier to say no, and I don't have time because you have no idea what you have in your time. You don't know what you have to do that week. And you're concerned that if you say yes to this, that it means that, you're going to like double book yourself because you didn't keep yourself organized. Yeah, I'm the second one, which means my friends listening to me talk about time are like, yeah, this should be amazing. Courtney talking about using your time wisely. Let's see, Courtney, let's see what you have to say about this. But I found 2 verses when I was thinking through this that I think really go well. So I'm going to go with the verse that spoke to my heart first. So those of us that are like not planners, Ephesians 5:15-17 says, "Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of the time because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is." So he says, make the best use of your time. Don't be unwise, but wise. So we need to understand that sometimes when we're unscheduled and unorganized with our time, we are not making the best use of our time. And if we were a little more organized, then we would know where our yeses can go and where we need to say no. We can say better yeses and better nos, right? For those of you that struggle with giving up your time, Hebrews 13:16 says, "And do not forget to do good and to share with others, for with such sacrifices, God is pleased." So I get it. Every yes that you say is a sacrifice for you. It's literally like taking and you're like prying open those hands and saying, okay, you're going to have a little bit of my time. And it's a sacrifice. So I understand that. But God is saying that if we do good and share with others, that is a sacrifice that pleases him. So sharing that time with others, if that's your excuse, I don't have time, sharing that time with others, doing something beneficial for others in that time is actually a sacrifice pleasing to God. I don't know if you know who Dave Ramsey is. He is a financial guy, and he has books and he has a radio show. But basically, his whole thing is helping people get out of debt and budgeting well. And one of the things that he says is, I don't know if he came up with it or if it's just something that he says all the time. He says, if you don't tell your money where to go, it will leave. So set a budget, tell your money to where it should go, and it will be there. Well, I think the same thing with our time. If you don't tell your time where to go, it will disappear so fast. And we know it. We get on social media and you're like, oh, I'm just going to check on 45 minutes later. You're not really sure what you looked at. And you might not have even checked what you went on there to check in the first place. You're like, oh, I never even looked up that person's birthday or whatever the information was that you were looking for. So if you don't tell your time where to go, it will disappear. And then you will have to say no because you have no idea what time you have to give to someone who's asking for your time. So that's the first area, I think, where we disqualify ourselves, is we say, I don't have the time because either I don't have the time because I'm not willing to give it to anyone, or I don't have the time because I didn't organize my time in a way that allows me to give my time. And then there's the next thing is talent. And we're concerned that we don't have the skill, or that we're not qualified to do whatever the job is, the ministry position, the, volunteer position is that we're being asked to do. And have you ever heard the phrase that God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called? This is just a phrase that people use in the church. It's not scripture. But basically the idea is that he doesn't only call people to positions that they are qualified for. Sometimes he calls people and then qualifies them. So basically, God doesn't only lead you into areas where you're trained and prepared. He leads you into areas and then helps you develop the skills that you need to fulfill that job or that calling. 1 Corinthians 12:9 is a verse where Paul is talking about his weaknesses. And Paul's really good in scriptures about like telling the things that he's good at. And some people won't like him because of that. But the weaknesses in this situation is what he's boasting about. And he's saying, here's the deal. When I'm weak, I am strong. And you're thinking, what? How does that even work? But basically what Paul is saying is, when I'm weak, my pride is not there, because I can't have, no one's really like walking around being like, yeah, look at my weakness. Right. And so he's like, when I'm weak, my pride is gone, and I'm leaning instead on the strength and the power of Christ instead of my own strength and power. And therefore, in the power of Christ, I am stronger than I am in my own power. And so in this case, I think when we say, I don't have the talent, I don't have the skills, what we're saying to God is, I don't have the skills and talents. You can't develop them in me, and your power is not strong enough. If I don't have the power to do it, then and that's the only power that I can stand on. That's the only power that I can believe in or depend upon. So you have to say no, because you don't already, have that skill or that power. And God's saying, actually, my grace is sufficient for you. That's also in that chapter. My grace is sufficient for you. So I want to challenge you that sometimes serving in areas where we're like not as strong, where we don't have the talent, actually what that does is it shapes us in a way that nothing else does. Stepping into one of those areas where we don't feel like we have the talent is really scary, because we feel like we're going to make a mistake. We feel like we're going to let people down. We feel like, we do have an issue with pride. I'm raising my hand because I get it. That's me. And so when we step into a place where it's not our strong point, we fight against that pride issue. But is it worth stepping into that area of weakness, or that area where you don't have that strong talent? I think so. I think the answer is yes. And that's because in the uncomfortable no that you're making, you are relying on the wisdom of God. And therefore, now you're kind of like putty in his hands, and he can shape you into the person that he needs you to be at this time in life, in this role that he has given you, not someone else, but that he has given you. So I think we shouldn't say no because, automatically because, oh, well, I don't have time. Or we shouldn't say no because, oh my gosh, talent wise, I don't have that. And we shouldn't say no. The third reason is for education, because I'm not educated enough. And I think this is the easiest one because we live in the Google era. I don't know how I would answer half my kids' questions if we didn't have Google, because they ask a question and I'm like, okay, give me a second. Let me look on the internet, and I look it up, and then we can have a discussion about it. But in this era where we've got Google, we've got books on tapes, we've got, so many books under the sun. I mean, about every subject you can think of. And we've got podcasts, right, that we can listen to. And so if there's something that you feel uneducated about, you just take an hour or two and do some research. And you would be amazed if you do that at how much better educated you might feel after just a couple hours. Now, can you educate yourself about everything in a couple of hours? The answer is no. No, you cannot. But could it give you a better start to understand where you might go for more education? Yes. My husband is a landscaper. And so sometimes he has clients that will ask him if he can do like something in their backyard or their front yard. And he'll say, let me go home and do some research about this, and I'll get back to you on that. And so he'll come home and do exactly what we said. He'll do some research on the internet. He'll look at videos, listen, look at pictures. And then he'll either decide, yeah, absolutely, I've never done this before, but yes, this is easily within my wheelhouse. Or he can say, no, I am neither qualified nor insured to do this. And so, but what I am going to do is find you someone who can do this for you and can, take care of this project for you. But he takes that time before he gives a yes or a no to educate himself on what it is he's saying yes or no to, so that he can decide if he has the time or the capacity to learn, or even if he has access to the materials and the machinery that he needs. We need to do the same. Do I have access to the training I might need if education is where, I'm struggling? This area of education is one area that I hear a lot of people use when we're talking about taking a step in ministry, because it scares them that they don't know enough about the Bible, or they don't have enough scriptures memorized, or they haven't been a Christian long enough to disciple another person or lead in a ministry or even help in a ministry, because someone might ask them a question. If you're being asked to step into a head pastor role, yeah, you're going to need some more education for that. So hopefully someone's not asking you to be head pastor. If you became, a Christian a day ago, but can you disciple someone as a young Christian? My belief is yes, because the idea of discipleship is walking alongside somebody. So as you are learning and growing in your walk, they are also learning and growing in their walk. And often that person is just a step or two behind where we are, but we're walking alongside one another. So, we talk about discipleship a lot here on the podcast, and we are learning as our disciples are learning. And remember that not having this amount of education that makes us feel comfortable is actually an argument for why we need to be, if we are discipling people, we need to be discipled. So we need to have someone that's discipling us as we disciple others. Because if the people that we're discipling have a question for us, it's okay to say, I don't know, and I'll get back to you. You go home and do your research, but you can also go to your discipler and say, hey, so the girl that I'm discipling had this question and I don't know how to answer it. Do you know how to answer it? Or do you know where I might find an answer for it? And hopefully they will, have the knowledge there to help you, guide you in what's next. I think the fourth area, I don't have time. I don't have the talent. I'm not educated. And the last one is there's someone better for this. Okay, I get it. We always feel, especially if you feel disqualified for whatever the position is, we always feel like I'm sure there's someone better than me. And we might be smiling because you're like, yeah, I've said that before, right? There's someone better. There's someone else that can do this. Here's the truth. There's always someone else that can do what you're being asked to do. But you may be the best person. There's always someone else, but you may be the best person. And so you have to decide if this is a good yes, a bad yes, or no. If this is a time when you need to say yes, even though you don't really feel qualified. A bad yes means you say yes without thinking about it and then have to renege on that later on. Or if it needs to be a no for you. But please consider there is always someone else, but you may be the best person to fit within this role. When we disqualify ourselves, sometimes we are missing out on a huge blessing that God wants to give us, but we're unwilling to step out in faith and receive that. We're unwilling to step out and get into these hard life situations. And when we step out in faith, there's always a time, a way that we change too. And it's beneficial because we become more like the person that God wants us to be. So remember, don't automatically assume that there's someone else. If you're asked or feel God leading you to do something new, take that step. Take that first small step of faith. So, okay, how should we respond? We know how we're not supposed to respond. I don't have time. I'm too young. I'm too old. I'm not qualified enough. Okay, we know we're not supposed to respond. So how are we supposed to respond? Well, I'm going to suggest you do two things. First, I'm going to suggest that you find yourself a yes man. You might have heard that before. That's someone in your life that says, yes, you can do this. Yes, do that. Now, sometimes people say like, he's surrounded by too many yes men. And that means they're surrounded by people that are always like cheering them on, even when it's a horrible decision. Like, you got this. And you're like watching them make these really, really bad choices. That's not the yes man that I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone who is going to encourage you to take that step of faith, someone who's going to listen to this opportunity with discretion and then give you wise counsel. And they might say to you, I see that that's a really great opportunity and you're actually really well fit for that, but do you have time in your schedule? Because that's going to take a big commitment. Or they might say, you're right, you don't have, the education for that, but actually your personality is really well fit for that role. So maybe consider going through some training and taking on that role because I actually think you'd be really good at it. So finding those yes men that are going to encourage you to step out in faith and say, yeah, even when you yourself are like, disqualifying yourself and discounting what you can do, they're going, no, I think you can do it. I think you can. So find yourself some yes men and women of wisdom in your life. And then I want you to go to the Lord in prayer. And I want you to start praying. I want you to pray for clarity as far as what you're supposed to do. I want you to pray for mentorship. If that's an area where you're like, yeah, I think I'm going into this area, but I feel uneducated, you're going to pray that God would, if you step into this role or this job, that God would provide someone who's going to mentor you. You're going to pray for wisdom, that you would know what's right, the yes or the no. You would pray for peace in whatever decision you make. Pray for patience as you make this choice. And finally, that you would pray that you would be able to forgive yourself when you make a mistake. So because when you're stepping into these roles that are not an easy yes for us, sometimes we make a mistake. Sometimes we don't balance our time well when we first start, or, we might say something that's not really what we meant to say or how we said it. And so we need to have a little bit of grace with ourselves, that as we're learning and as we are getting qualified for these new roles, that we would have grace with ourselves. So this week, remember, friends, if you're asked to do something new or out of your comfort zone, don't respond with, I can't. Instead try, can I have some time to think through that and pray through that? And then I'll get back to you. Take the time to consider your new step in life. And then, friends, whether you say yes or whether you say no, no is an okay answer, right? Whether you say yes or whether you say no, you can know that your choice is coming from a place of wisdom.